The sound arrives long after the absolute destruction is already complete. A deep, terrifying mechanical roar tearing through the heavy salt air of the Persian Gulf, signaling the arrival of an aviation legend. For decades, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps believed that the narrow 21-mile geographic bottleneck known as the Strait of Hormuz was their ultimate strategic trump card. They built thousands of lightly armored fast attack boats designed to swarm massive commercial oil tankers and paralyze the global economy. But today, that entire asymmetric naval strategy is being violently dismantled by a machine built for pure, unadulterated devastation. The United States military has officially unleashed the A-10 Thunderbolt II, universally feared as the Warthog, directly into the heart of the contested waterway, and the hunters have suddenly become the hunted. Currently operating in the 21st brutal day of Operation Epic Fury, these legendary close air support titans are flying incredibly low and menacingly slow directly over the water. They are actively executing a relentless maritime interdiction campaign, tearing apart the IRGC naval swarm with clinical, terrifying efficiency. The Strait of Hormuz has essentially been transformed from an Iranian choke point into a tightly confined, perfectly enclosed shooting gallery completely controlled by American air power. With nowhere to hide, the heavily armed Iranian mine-laying vessels and suicide boats are being systematically eradicated. The sheer kinetic power the Warthog brings to this specific naval fight is practically unrivaled. At the absolute core of its terrifying arsenal sits the legendary GAU-8 Avenger 30mm cannon. This massive 7-barrel Gatling gun is capable of violently blasting up to 3,900 armor-piercing depleted uranium rounds every single minute. When those massive, super-dense rounds connect with the fiberglass hulls of the IRGC fastboats, they do not just sink the vessels, they instantly vaporize them, turning the enemy fleet into floating confetti. But the Warthog does not rely on its massive cannon alone. These heavily armored attack aircraft are flying fully equipped with advanced precision-guided munitions. They utilize AGM-65 Maverick missiles specifically engineered for standoff kills, alongside small-diameter bombs deployed for surgical, devastating strikes. While their prized naval assets are shredded into burning scrap metal along the southern flank, the regime in Tehran continues to spit desperately defiant rhetoric. In a comical attempt to project strength, the IRGC has resorted to wildly fabricated propaganda. Recently, they broadcasted manipulated video footage claiming they successfully shot down a highly advanced American F-35A Lightning II using a surface-to-air missile. The thermal video showed an aircraft exploding, but international military experts immediately tore the footage apart. The fake thermal imagery depicted the entire fuselage of the stealth jet burning at an impossible 1000 degrees Celsius, proving it was a poorly generated artificial intelligence fabrication. United States Central Command quickly shut down the rumors, confirming that while an F-35 did make a safe emergency landing, it was untouched by hostile fire, likely experiencing a standard maintenance issue expected during a massive military operation, boasting thousands of sorties. The Iranian regime delusional claims did not stop with the F-35. Semi-official Iranian news outlets aggressively pushed further propaganda, falsely claiming that a direct strike had successfully hit the massive USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, forcing the nuclear-powered behemoth to retreat from the Persian Gulf. Even more absurdly, Iranian state media boasted that one of their aging Yak-130 trainer jets had somehow managed to shoot down a highly advanced American F-15 fighter. Israel immediately exposed this humiliating lie by releasing real combat footage showing an Israeli stealth fighter effortlessly obliterating an Iranian Yak-130, using an AIM-120 advanced medium-range air-to-air missile, effectively turning the Iranian jet into a burning cheese grater before the pilot even knew he was targeted. While Tehran desperately spins these fabricated victories, the hard, undeniable numbers coming directly out of the Pentagon paint a picture of total systemic collapse for the Iranian military. The statistics detailing the destruction are absolutely staggering. Across the entire military campaign, an unbelievable 120 Iranian naval vessels have been severely damaged or completely sunk, with that number climbing every single day. The immediate overwhelming presence of the A-10 Warthog over the last 12 hours has heavily contributed to this rapidly rising death toll. Furthermore, combined American and Allied airstrikes have reduced Iran overall missile and drone threats by an astonishing 90%. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, stood alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and explicitly confirmed this devastating reality. General Kane stated clearly that the A-10 Warthog is fully engaged across the entire southern flank, relentlessly targeting fast attack watercraft in the Strait of Hormuz and actively safeguarding global energy security. But the American military is not restricting this legendary aircraft exclusively to the open waters of the Persian Gulf. The A-10 Warthogs are concurrently running devastating close air support missions across the border in Iraq, actively hunting down heavily armed Iranian-backed militias. The IRGC has heavily relied on these proxy forces to threaten United States military personnel and completely destabilize the broader Middle East. Because these proxy militias utilize the exact same light armored vehicles and small unit swarm tactics on land that the IRGC Navy uses at sea, they are the perfect prey for the Warthog. The aircraft loiters silently high overhead, utilizing surgical accuracy to pick off hidden weapons caches, military convoys, and fortified militia positions, completely denying the Iranian regime any effective proxy response on the ground. For the IRGC commanders, realizing that the A-10 is systematically dismantling both their naval swarm and their ground proxies simultaneously is the ultimate inescapable nightmare scenario. The incredible survivability of the A-10 makes it the perfect tool for this highly dangerous low-altitude environment. Flying low below the remaining Iranian surface-to-air missile radar systems, the Warthog pilots are encased in a literal titanium bathtub that completely surrounds the cockpit with thick armor. The aircraft features fully redundant systems for its flight controls and self-healing wings that automatically fill with specialized foam if punctured by enemy fire. It is essentially the fighter jet version of an armored suit, allowing pilots to brazenly stare down fast attack craft, shrugging off small arms fire until the enemy forces have absolutely no choice but to surrender or be utterly destroyed. The Iranian regime has continuously funneled massive amounts of their country treasure into building this vast fleet of small attack craft. They utilize funds generated from illicit oil sales to nations like China, taking hundreds of millions of dollars to construct these vessels, and frequently disguising military hardware as innocent civilian fishing boats. These boats were specifically meant to cause massive chaos and havoc in a choke point scenario, exactly like the one currently unfolding. But the geography of the theater is now playing directly into the hands of the United States. Iran's exposed southern coast and the natural pinch of the Strait of Hormuz have effectively trapped the IRGC vessels in a highly confined space. For the A-10 pilots, this 21-mile swath of water is no longer a treacherous maritime passage. It is basically a wide-open, completely target-rich bombing range. American pilots have trained for years to execute exactly this type of maritime strafing mission. Utilizing advanced bombing ranges at Nellis Air Force Base and Creech Air Force Base in Nevada, pilots have relentlessly practiced strafing remote-controlled targets. Furthermore, rigorous military exercises frequently take place in the back bayous of Louisiana, where pilots are forced to track and engage highly maneuverable boats ducking into small coves and dense environments. Because the Strait of Hormuz offers zero cover compared to those complex training spots, the A-10 pilots are currently working with deadly, unmatched speed, treating the fight with lasting, low-level dominance. It is a strict taking out of the enemy fleet. As the fight moves on, the United States is fast to shift to the end phase to keep the sea free. Planners see a near future where A-10 jets shift to non-stop combat air patrols directly over the sea. These armored jets will likely team up with a huge net of MQ-9 Reaper drones, forming an invisible wall in the sky that keeps commercial oil tankers safe. The United States is also ready to drop a big hammer. A huge unit of 2,500 elite Marines is now moving into the war zone. This big strike group brings its own air support wing with F-35B stealth jets. The MEU brings heavy artillery and advanced ground combat elements directly to the beachhead. With these troops securing the coastal islands, the IRGC will lose their last remaining forward operating bases. They will have absolutely no places left to hide. When they get there, it will be a very bad day for Iran. The United States will have the ground and air force to fully rule the area. The regime is now fully cut off, and their attack tools are broken. The strict, non-stop force from the United States speeds up the path to total sea freedom. The Strait will be forced open, and the global fuel markets will be safe for good. As American air power and top pilots win the day, the regime in Tehran has to just watch their best asset turn into a burning graveyard in the sea. The goals move forward without stop, and the Warthog leads the final charge. Every single day that the A-10 Warthogs fly over the Persian Gulf is another day that the United States asserts its absolute maritime dominance. The era of asymmetric naval harassment is coming to a violent and permanent end.